Hey friends, it's Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. Have you heard of the vampire virus? Yeah, I'm actually saying the V word. I'll see if I can get away with it here on this channel, as long as I tell you that they exist, they cause disease, and you should be very, very scared of them. So from here on out, I might have to just call it the V instead. I'm going to share some images with you of what the cartoon artists have come up with. And then I also want to tie this in with something very creepy, because apparently there was a movie in 2019. Guess what? All about the vampire virus, where it turned people into, you guessed it, vampires. So this story gets a little weird, and I've got a short video that I'm going to share with you. But first, I want to share this other video with you, because this is a word from the sponsor of our video and our show here. And this is where you can go, which is gutcleanseprotocol.com/Peggy. And I would like you to watch this video, because it is going to help you if you are struggling with digestive issues, which can be caused by a potential toxin that is in all of the, quote, healthy foods that scientists have been telling us to eat with that fraudulent food period for the longest time. So I will leave a link for you there. You can watch this video, Gut Cleanse protocol.com. And this comes from Dr. Gundry, who is a world-renowned cardiologist. And he is somebody that did get in trouble for speaking out against the cocktails. Just wanted to let you know that. So there are warning signs for these digestive issues, such as weight gain, fatigue, digestive discomfort, and stiff joints, even skin problems. So Dr. Gundry explains that these side effects are often mistaken for normal signs of aging, because digestive issues can develop usually over a matter of years or even decades. So that damage, according to Dr. Gundry, can be attributed to these so-called healthy foods. So I want you to check it out, gutcleanseprotocol.com. You'll see that video, and I'll have a link for you to click in the description box below. All right, friends, let's talk about this very creepy vampire virus. I'm going to queue up a video for you here. All right, let me share my screen, and we are going to hop right on over here to this video.
Scientists have unearthed something truly extraordinary. For what may be the first time, researchers have found a vampire virus. No, this virus doesn't wear capes or avoid garlic, but it has been lurking in the shadows, metaphorically speaking. Scientists call it a vampire virus because it was found to be latched onto the neck of a larger virus. The vampire virus lost the ability to reproduce on its own, but evolved to find help from a different virus in this unique way. This discovery is a new example of one of the many ways viruses can interact with each other. There is still more research to be done, but unearthing the secrets of the vampire viruses has opened up new doors to understanding viral evolution. So while they may not turn into bats or fear the sunlight, these viruses are proving to be just as intriguing as their mythical namesake.
All right. I like that she used the word mythical, because that's really where I would put all of this. I want to play this again because I have a couple comments of my own, and I would like to hear from you what you caught in this video. And then I want to show you how I found out about this. We'll look at the artist rendering, and then I want to, maybe we should take bets or something to see if this is going to be the next cooties that they're going to slosh all over us. Or is it just a way that they are mocking us with these ridiculous concepts? And I feel sorry for these bats. They're like little flying puppies, and they're always being blamed for these horrible diseases. Here we go.
Have unearthed something truly extraordinary. For what may be the first time, researchers have found a vampire virus. No, this virus doesn't wear capes or avoid garlic, but it has been lurking in the shadows, metaphorically speaking.
So look at all of the imagery that they have here, right? You've got the fangs, you've got the coffin, you've got the bats coming out of the coffin. All of these images are selected intentionally. And those previous images of the little cartoon balls flying by, of course, that's exactly what these particles look like.
Scientists call it a vampire.
Yeah, of course, this is exactly what they found under the microscope. You should not question it. And I wonder if this green and red, if this will be the next color coding of this disaster. I've got that video called Color Coded Disasters, and you'll see how they like to also use that as part of the mind control.
Higher virus because it was found to be latched onto the neck of a larger virus.
Okay, let me get this straight. So viruses have necks. That's a new one for me. All right. Do they have a torso then if they have a neck? That means they have a head. Do they have arms and legs? Oh, that's right. They're not considered life. Well, we're going to look at that debate also in just a moment. And you'll see how the scientists now are trying to redefine the term life. Because, if life doesn't really exist, then it's okay to just, how do you say, terminate it in the womb? Yes, because it's not exactly life. Let's continue, shall we?
The vampire virus lost the ability to reproduce on its own.
Okay, hang on. All right. I need to come off the screen share for a moment so we can just talk about this face to face. It lost the ability to reproduce on its own. Now, I don't know if the news writer here who gave this script to the newscaster, the spellcaster, I meant to say, I don't know if that person is ignorant about biology and these little, I'll just call them particles, the invisible particles, but no one, including the scientists, have ever said that these invisible particles can procreate. That's the word that I'm going to use, on their own. That was really an interesting little choice of words that she used there. And then she also said that it lost the ability. So what evidence is there that that little invisible particle had the ability to actually procreate on its own? I would like to have evidence of that as well. Let's go back. We have about 30 more seconds of this torture. Oh, let me go back a little bit, because now we're going to talk about evolution. And and I know that there's plenty of evidence. There are all sorts of fossils that show, for example, monkeys turning into humans. I just can't figure out why there are still monkeys. Oh, that's a question for another day.
Ability to reproduce on its own.
That's the word she used, reproduce. Well, what she meant to say was replicate, because none of these invisible particles, and by invisible, I just mean they've never been seen, have the ability to reproduce on their own, because they are not able to create life. There is no metabolism. There is no heat that is generated. There is no mobility on their own. Basically, they're kind of like this pen that I have. It's inert, in other words, and unseen.
But evolved to find help from a different virus in this unique way.
Evolved to find help. I'm sure we do not need to look into that. I'm certain that if we were to look to see what kind of academic papers were published, we would probably find that there was a lot of nothing.
This discovery is a new example of one.
And here we have it. So this is what they're calling the neck of the invisible particle. Strange that they were able to see it. Yeah, I don't see the torso or the arms and legs, but apparently that is the neck that this vampire has so cleverly been able to attach itself to.
In many ways, viruses can interact with each other. There is still more research to be done.
This is probably what it's going to look like. Well, they are showing us that little purple and gray image, but maybe it will morph into this nice, I don't know, this looks like some kind of child's candy or something. What say you? Now, don't be telling me that it's an artist rendering. This is exactly what they find under the microscope. That's how they know that that's what it is.
But unearthing the secrets of the vampire viruses has opened up new doors to understanding viral evolution.
Okay, I cut her off a little bit. She was saying evolution, which again is, let's not call it the theory of evolution, even though that's the technical name. I think we should just accept it as fact, because after all, we're told that the Earth is it 5 million years old? Is it 200 and Is it billions now? I'm losing track because they're always coming out with new evidence for the evolution. Because don't you know we came from slime? Yes, absolutely. And there's still slime, and there's some slimy people, and there's some slimy tactics that the attorneys are teaching people at the woke place, the HR department, and so forth. But as far as slime, I guess some people would argue that they've come across some people that might still be in their evolutionary phase. But here, there's something called viral evolution, which we should not question. So I'm not going to question it. And then this image was clearly explained to us, and it is depicting, I'm sure it's depicting something extremely relevant and appropriate to this news story that the spellcaster is telling us.
So while they may not turn into bats or fear the sunlight, these viruses are proven to be just as intriguing as their mythical namesake.
Well, maybe they are mythical. Maybe that's the tie-in. Now, here we see other types of images which were identified for us, and we were told by the spellcaster, and there were why they showed these images, because they look completely different than the vampires, but maybe it's part of their evolutionary process. I'm using a Canadian pronunciation for some reason. All right, I'm just having a little fun here, and but it's no laughing matter because they're vampires. So what I'm going to do now is share with you the actual image that I got off the Washington Post. And if the Washington Post said it, then it absolutely is 100% accurate. Do not question it. And we'll come back to this scene right here, because there was this movie, or maybe it was an episode. I don't watch TV or movies, but this was called Daybreakers, and it had a vampire virus. What a quinky dink in 2019. And guess what? A single bat started it all, because there have to be villains, and apparently the bats are the villains. Not to be confused with the Palestinians who are the villains. These are the bats who are the villains. All right. On a lighter note, here we go. This is from the Washington Post, and the Washington Post carries a subtitle that says, or a subhead that says, "Democracy dies in darkness." Because don't you know, we have a democracy. I don't know why people call it a constitutional republic. I've done many videos about that. I should probably change it, because a democracy is you can vote in whatever laws you want. You don't have the restrictions of the Constitution. So that's why the left likes to call it democracy. And don't confuse it with socialism or communism, or like one step toward communism. It's just democracy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the democracy for which it stands. And I know you've asked me to do my video about the pledge. That's going to be after Thanksgiving. I've got so many videos queued up for you, friends, but I will do a deep dive on that, because it did get me questioning. And actually, I think it's important that we question. I've got a video for you tomorrow about signs of intelligent life. And that is one of the signs, is if you are able to question and entertain another perspective, and maybe even take on that perspective once you have been given evidence that is compelling. And then you draw your conclusion from that. So I'm going to draw my conclusion here. After we look at the information, scientists have discovered what may be the first vampire, I'm just going to say it, virus. I don't think I'll be kicked off. I'm reading from a headline. Yeah, and after Thanksgiving, I'll also share with you the re-education program that I went through here on YouTube, which is why I'm able to speak so freely about all of these things accurately, because I don't want to say anything that's wrong in the eyes of YouTube and the WHO, of course, and probably, nasal Schwab from the WEF. So here we have it. It's called the mini flare. And I'll show you a couple of images in just a moment of what a mini flare looks like, apparently in some type of video games. Again, this is not a part of my culture in terms of what I'm familiar with. So this is all new to me, but it says an unusual microbe. Oh, so now it's being called a microbe. Well, that's interesting because I think microbes and these viruses are probably different. It was found attached to another virus, there I said it, in a soil sample from Maryland. Well, isn't that interesting? So all y'all that want to go gardening this weekend, maybe just dig around in your soil and see if you can find this too. Make sure you look for the green mini flare, which is attached to the flare. And that's why this little mini flare is the vampire, because it's attached to its neck. And here we have it. The mind flare is the larger virus in this microscopic image. This is exactly what they found in the soil. Do not question it. I would never question it. And I'm certain that this was not colorized or enhanced by any computer graphics program at all. There's probably not even the capability to do that. Obviously, it came right from the microscope because they told us. So I'm going to read you a little bit, but let me just get to the punchline. And I'm going to show you. Here's the image again. Oh, it says it is a colorized image. Well, let's see. There's this color, and then there's this color. So I predict that this green is going to be the color coding. The green and the purple will be the color coding for this disease, just like Zika had its own colors and Ebola had its own colors. And of course, cooties had its own colors. And I did a whole video called Color Coded Disasters, which I will try to link up for you here after this one. Now, this is what's interesting when I did some research. Here's what the flare virus looks like. This is some type of character, correct me if I'm wrong, of a video game. I did not want to do too much of a deep dive because I do want to protect my soul, and I do not want to expose my vessel to too much of this darkness. But here you go. They're called necrons, and you can convert your flare virus. There you have it. Here's another one. The zombie necrons are also from the flare virus known apparently now as here we are. The flare virus is a contagion that is highly feared by the necron race, which transforms those that become infected into twisted, shambling monstrosities and cursing them with an insatiable hunger for flesh and blood. Well, that sounds promising. So yeah, I'm not going to play that game. But what I am going to do is just tell you a little bit about this vampire virus. And it says in 2020, what are the chances in March of 2020? Maybe they were trying to see which one would take. So they trotted out the cooties and then they trotted out the vampire virus. And it says that the researcher found something she thinks no scientist has ever seen before, a virus with another smaller virus latched onto its neck. So I need to study the anatomy of viruses. I didn't realize they had like a skeletal system with a vertebrae and all of that. The backstory of this viral attachment is like a masterclass in how wild and weird biology can be. This is directly from not the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. Are they the same? Almost one and the same, aren't they? These two microbes are both bacteriophages. I'm not clear on their pronunciation. And these are viruses that infect bacteria. And they were harvested from a clump of dirt in Poolesville, Maryland. What are the chances? So don't go gardening because you don't want to be infected with these viruses. They're among the most abundant organisms on Earth. There can be millions in a gram of dirt. Yuck. Okay. With a special kind of microscope that uses a beam of electrons, it's called an electron microscope, to capture images, the scientist witnessed a truly bizarre moment, kind of like a wildlife photographer that captures animal behavior that no one has anticipated. And she says, I could see literally hundreds of them had this little guy attached at the neck. So it was clearly not random, she says. We know that viruses can do some amazing, interesting things, but this is just another new thing that no one could have ever predicted. Okay, I will just scoot along here a little bit and summarize this article. Viruses will do anything, she says. They are the most creative forces of nature. If anything is possible, they will come up with a way to do it. Okay, this is where I need to stop and revisit the definition of a virus. Now, I know that YouTube has educated me on what they are and how deadly they are and how you should do every single thing that the WHO tells you. So, and the CDC. So we'll just put that on the table right now. But what I'm curious about is that there's something called a virus sphere. And scientists call it the strange universe of viruses. And they include elements called, are you ready for it? Satellites, because those exist too. And these satellites have lost their ability to replicate inside the cell. How do you like them apples? So they have learned how to overcome this deficiency by integrating into the genome of the cells that they infect. And all of this, even though there's no references or whatever, I know it's been 100% vetted and validated because that's the scientific method. So what they do is they lurk, we're told, until another virus, a helper virus that has the missing ingredients, just happens to enter the cell. And then the satellite sees the opportunity to make copies of themselves. And this, again, we need to talk about the definition of a virus. Well, let's do this. The definition of life. All right, let me share my screen again. And I did a little research, and I've been doing this research for many years because I was always curious as to why one person would get sick and somebody else doesn't. And I'm wearing this beautiful color in solidarity with this image here. And here, this was from 2008. And it says, although viruses challenge our concept of what living means, they are vital members of the web of life. And here's another image. They really like these colors here. These, of course, are not computer generated. I would say that these most likely came from that clump of dirt under the microscope. So we should not question it at all. But there's those very nice, cheerful colors again. Yeah, happy viruses. So it says, I'm just going to read you a few phrases of this because it's so clear. And it says human adenovirus type 5 and sulfolobus turretid icosahedral virus 2 assemble their capsids from trimeric capsomeres, in which each promoter comprises a domain duplication of the beta jelly roll fold. Oh, that makes me want to have a donut. Anyway, I'm sure this is so clear that most of you understood it. I'm sorry if I'm a little behind the times on that, but it must be science. And so we must believe it. So here we go. Our virus is alive. And the scientific community has repeatedly changed its collective mind over what viruses are. This is from the Scientific American, because don't you know we have a collective mind? It's called the hive mind. And yeah, I suppose we're all a part of it, although I don't want to be. But I will just let you know what this collective mind says about the viruses. First, they were seen as poisons, then as life forms, then as biological chemicals. And now they are thought of as being in the gray area between the living and the non-living. Is that like zombies? Or is that like these vampires, the flayers? I'm not quite sure, but here's why they don't want to not say what they are. Because this is why they don't want to say what they are, because here's one virologist says, viruses lead a borrowed life. That makes complete sense, doesn't it? And another question came up as I was doing my research: to be or not to be. The seemingly simple question of whether or not viruses are alive has probably defied a simple answer all of these years because it raises a fundamental question. What exactly defines life? That's a really hard question to answer. Well, guess what? Prior to all of this, scientists did have an answer. And it was that to be alive or to consider that something is life, it has to be able to metabolize. It has to have the ability to procreate. It has to have the ability to create energy. And it also has the attributes of being born and dying. So I think a third grader could probably explain to you what is life and whether something is alive or not. So there have been research papers done on this. Here's another from the National Library of Medicine, from the National Institutes of Health from the United States. So obviously we can definitely rely on the validity of that. And it says that the question of are viruses alive depends on the definition of life or the state of being alive. There is no generally accepted definition of life or aliveness. Well, I don't know. Am I alive? Are you alive? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's finish here with this. What the CDC has to say about it, because they are the ones that we have to trust, according to YouTube. All right, here we go. This is from the CDC. And I just grabbed this off a little search on Giggle. And it says this was a podcast. And it says viruses aren't really a living thing like an animal is. And this is a big topic of debate. And we don't have time right now to talk about it on this video, but they are able to use living things like animals and people to make copies of themselves. And then they keep spreading from one living thing to another. So I think that's the clearest explanation of all. Thank you to the CDC. So for example, this is a pen, and I can't tell you if it's alive or not, or, you know, if it's living or if it has the qualities of aliveness, because the CDC said so. And also the National Institutes of Health said it's a very important question that we should keep asking, but not now, because there's no time to answer it now. So my question is, and we'll just do a little science project right here. And let's say that let me be a little delicate and elegant here. So let's say that this cup contains some, how do I put it, genetic material from a male mammal, if you catch my drift. And if I were to take, which has the potential of creating life, right? And then I'm going to take this ballpoint pen and I'm going to drop it into the cup and stir it around a little bit. Is this going to make little tiny baby ballpoint pens? Is that what's going to happen next? Oh, I should do that experiment. Yeah, because that's what they're telling us about the viruses. You see, they are inert, kind of like a rock or something, but somehow they are able to attach themselves to your cells, and they get inside in a very clear way, as I was reading to you earlier. And then a very clear evolutionary mechanism, which probably took gazillions of years. I'm just going to round it up because I don't really know how many billions and zillions. So I kind of like gazillion. That's how we were able to evolve from slime, because otherwise we would see it happening right before our eyes. But the scientists have reminded us that it takes a gazillion years for that to happen. So maybe in a gazillion years, putting this together, we would get little tiny baby ballpoint pens out of that, because that's what we're told what happens with these viruses, which I think is fascinating. So there you have it. The sad thing is that the bats are always to blame. And I think they're cute. And maybe because they have wings and they've depicted vampires to look like little bats or something, but I think they look like little flying puppies. I have nothing against them. So there you have it, friends. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, something a little more lighthearted. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about signs of intelligent life. And I also have a bonus video for you. I actually made a little list of some videos that I have coming up for you, because the following week is going to be the week of Thanksgiving. And I am going to take a few days off. Many of you have been telling me to take a few days off, and I plan on doing that. So let's see what I've got coming up. I will have videos for you. about the logos of the New World Disorder. Yes, I covered that before. I think it's time for us to revisit that. And then I'm going to be talking about dealing with difficult people. We'll dive into that over Thanksgiving week, just in case it's probably not going to happen to you, that you're going to run into any friends or family members or what have you at any kind of Thanksgiving get-togethers. I'm sure they're all going to be very pleasant, and you can have a free exchange of ideas with nobody getting hot under the collar. So just in case you need that one, I'll have that queued up for you. And also how to get out of the spin cycle. I think for the week of Thanksgiving, that is a good time to watch it because you need a break as well, friends. And because of that, I'm not going to be broadcasting on Thanksgiving Day or the day after Thanksgiving, but I will have the day before Thanksgiving a very interesting interview talking about digestion and detoxing with my very favorite non-woke, awake and aware, holistic, integrative medical doctor, Dr. Chari, who is 100% against all of the hogwash. And you are going to love to learn from her because she teaches very clearly. And then I will have, so that's what we've got coming up for Thanksgiving week, friends. I just wanted to let you know in advance. And I will have some Substacks coming out for you also. And so that is at peggyhall.substack.com. And that's where I do some deep dives and some written summaries and analysis of some of my videos that I broadcast for you here. So that's a great way for us to stay in touch as well. So big shout out to the moderators. I appreciate you all being on board. My Healthy American audience, you are a blessing to me. I'm grateful for you, and I look forward to seeing you in an upcoming broadcast.